Hey, so this is just a short video about something that I was noticing or thinking, or just if I was one of those conspiracy theory type people, I'd be kind of thinking like, okay, if I wanted to do something and show this certain group of people this certain thing, I would do it in this way. But I don't think this is happening. You know, Occam's razor type of thing, where I think in some cases it's just the simplest thing. This is over confusing things. But this is about Charlamagne Tha God. Charlamagne Tha God, for those of you who don't know, is a hip-hop personality. I think he's been a rapper for a while, but now he's mostly known for giving a lot of takes on different public issues, and he's a radio personality on this show, I think on 106.5. It's in New York. He's on a show called The Breakfast Club. So I saw this news clip of him on CNN being interviewed by Brooke Burke talking about how the vice president, the former vice president, or anyway, Joe Biden, who's running for the Democratic Party's presidential nomination, he's the front runner right now, he was trying to actually get into, he's trying to get that nomination, right? But Charlamagne was talking about how Joe Biden has not come to his show, and a lot of the other people running, I think Kamala Harris, Andrew Yang, Elizabeth Warren even went, Bernie Sanders have been on the show and given a little interview. And he's supposedly one of those guys who asked those tough questions. So he's saying, by Joe Biden not coming to the show, he was saying in this one, he was like, okay, well, Joe Biden was the first black president's first vice president. He was the first vice president of the first black president. And again, we'll come back to that. But first vice president, this way that was put this kind of on. And he's not coming to the show to speak is kind of showing some, he's showing that he's self-centered, or he's too stuck up, like, oh, he doesn't need you guys, so he's not coming. He just felt, I'm not going to come to the show. And some people, I think when Bernie Sanders was on the show or something some time back, they're like, oh, Donald Trump needs to go on the Breakfast Club and talk to them and then show like black people and brown people and all these other people that he doesn't hate them. I'm like, okay, I don't think Donald Trump is racist to begin with. And I don't necessarily think him going on there, the people who think he's racist from the little evidence they've been given, I don't think him going on there would change that many minds. When you have 90% of black Americans vote Democrat. I think when there was Barack Obama in it, it was 95%. When it comes to the women, I'm sure it's 95%. And I think with the men, it's about 80% or something like that. So those are the numbers. That's not really going to change, I think, by Donald Trump going on 106 in Park. I'm not 106 in Park. That's a different show on BT, on Breakfast Club. But anyway, with this situation, what I was noticing with this, I was like, okay, Charlamagne Tha God. And I was like, okay, I've never actually checked. I was like, that's a pretty decent name. I like that name, Charlamagne, but I was familiar with it from history. I was like, was he named after Charlamagne? I was like, why would his parents name him after some white European leader? And I know we're speaking English. English is a white people's language. I get that. It's even here in Kenya. It's colonial country. The colonists came and they took that and they brought English, and now we speak it. There's a lot of people who use that same English to talk about how negative the effect of white people in colonialism has been. I'm like, are you willing to go back to the tribal tongues? I don't know. I personally don't want to take the tribal tongues. I like English, but I also don't have those same, everything that white people brought was negative. Now, Charlamagne, so I looked at his actual name. His actual name is Leonard Larry McKelvey. That's in a little tongue twister there. Leonard Larry McKelvey. So that doesn't necessarily sound that Afrocentric. It's not that Afro of a name. Leonard Larry. I know some Leonards here. I know some Leonards. But it's a thing. It's a name, so I can get why he used a different name. But why pick Charlamagne Tha God? Now, also when it comes to the God aspect, when you think of God, what God is he talking about? You know, it could be the God in general, and I think in slang, it's like, oh, that's my God. Or like you God from Wu-Tang Clan. You know, that's just the God. That's the God. Like, that's the guy who knows a lot of information. That's the guy that has a lot of power. That's the guy that moves things. I think there's a slang way of using that. But when it comes to the God type of situation, first of all, he's big upping himself in that position, and maybe he earns it. I mean, people listen to him, and he does say some pretty introspective things in certain locations and things like that. But anyway, so this is the God aspect, but now that's another thing. The white God, the white Jesus type of thing, where there's an atheist group here where they're posting some things in that, and there's something else I also saw where people were talking about how in the white community, like the church is the bank is the center of the white community, but in the black community, the bank is the center of the black community. And this was, I think it was from a radio show in the United States of America where that was said, but that was shared by a in a Ghanaian group, and then that was shared to the atheists in Kenya group that I'm in. Well, anyway, so I heard that and was like, yeah, but I've also been thinking the white Jesus. Another thing here that happened in Kenya, people say the white people bringing over all these things, destroying our culture. Yet they're very religious, very Christian people here. They're very strong into the Christianity thing. If you take away that faith, they really attack you in negative ways. There's been several situations where I've seen somebody comes out as an atheist and they lose their job. They don't outright come out and say it's because you're this, but I think the head of the Atheists in Kenya group, Harrison Mumia or Harrison Kumi or something like that, he came out and there was an article and he was fired. He lost his job by being a vocal atheist. Now, so there's the God aspect, but he was talking about this first black president type of thing. And with Barack Obama saying he's the first black president, being interviewed by a white woman. I've talked about this in a previous video, how there's something with European culture or Western culture that it's a gynocentric culture. So I understand putting up certain people, certain women, and white women would be at the highest, because it's a majority white country, majority white society. It's a predominantly white culture. So it would understand that white women would be given the highest power and the highest abilities in these things, despite all this talk of patriarchy. Because as I repeated constantly with President Barack Obama, former President Barack Obama, his mother was white. He was raised by a white mother in Indonesia from a lot of his childhood. But white women are the only women accepted in general in that culture that can give birth to a child that is of all other races. A black woman wouldn't really be accepted to have given birth to a white kid. They wouldn't be like, if Barack Obama could not identify as white. If it had been a German father who came into the United States of America somehow, met his black mom, and then his black mom had a kid with a black mom and then left and didn't really raise him that much. And then he went into, she moved him to, let's go somewhere in South America, maybe in Brazil, and raised him there and then brought him back to the United States of America. And then then you can go through, instead of Hawaii, they pass through Fiji, and then they come back to the United States of America and he becomes the president. They wouldn't just say, oh, that's just another white president, because that kid would be considered black. A black woman cannot give birth to a white kid or a white person. But a white woman can raise their child in an Asian country and that child is still black. And that, to me, is giving some extra powers or extra capabilities to that white woman, where she can have white, she can have Asian, she can have black, she can have Latino, she can have any other race you can think of. She can have that kid, but no other woman from any other race. And having a white woman interview that, I think, to me, if I was more conspiratorial, if I was kind of going behind social, moving things around, showing people, rubbing things in people's faces, I would make sure Charlamagne Tha God gets constantly interviewed by white women when he's talking about political issues like this, because you can hope you can get to a situation like this. But Occam's razor, this is probably not a thing that happened. It's probably me just kind of looking at things in different ways. Just this is how my mind works sometimes. Let me know if you guys think that's a thing. But what do you guys think about that whole thing? Why would Charlamagne Tha God take a name like Charlamagne Tha God, work on a show like The Breakfast Club, and now maybe for a wide range of people in the United States of America, in the black community and in the urban community? And he's host DJ Envy, and I don't know who else is he host with. DJ Envy and Angela Yee. I think Angela Yee. Now Yee with the last name that I don't know now. Is that her professional name? But she looks like she's mixed or something. DJ Envy looks like he's Latino or from Dominican or something like that. But anyway, so this is supposedly a place where a lot of people in the urban community, in the non-white community, supposedly get in there and they get their information. See, these are the gatekeepers. But maybe for them, when they hear Breakfast Club, they think of the Breakfast Club. When I hear Breakfast Club, I think of that show, that movie with what's it called? With Molly Ringwald. I mean, I think for a lot of people, maybe that's just because of how I grew up and the places that I've been and the things that I've seen. But Charlamagne, to me, that was the name back then. That was the name of the French leader. I think he's a French leader from way back in the day. Breakfast Club, I'm thinking Molly Ringwald. So is it kind of thing where they're like taking back these things, appropriating these things and owning them and rewriting them in their own way? So they actually teach things in different ways. Because for a lot of people right now, when they think Charlamagne Tha God might be the first person they think of. When they think of Breakfast Club, this show, The Breakfast Club, may be the first thing they think of. And maybe in the United States of America, all over the country and things like that, they were actual breakfast clubs before the movie came out. I think the movie came out in the 80s. Could be mistaken. But anyway, let me know what you guys think about that. Like, share, and subscribe. Let me know in the comment section. Links below to the merchandise store. Goodbye. I have this general premise that we're leaving the information age and entering the age of understanding. We've been in a time where we just have unprecedented access to information, and with all this information, it's easy to get confused. Somebody may be intending to tell you something, but it's in a language you don't necessarily understand, and then you confuse that and you react to them in a way that causes conflict. I'm trying to improve that and change that, and I might make those mistakes on my own. So some of these things may seem incendiary. It might seem like I'm trying to insult people, but I could just be confused. So let me know in the comment section. Hopefully I can get better at communicating. I really enjoy talking to you guys in the comment sections whenever that happens. So till next video, like, share, and subscribe. Goodbye.